You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host Adam Keller. There's just so much happening, and so what we're gonna do really quick is there's a fantastic newsletter, "Who Gets the Bird?" written by Jonah Furman. And so what we did this morning is we pulled everything out of that, and what he does is he just goes over everything happening in the labor movement. New NLRB organizing, outside of the NLRB organizing, wins, losses, strikes, contract negotiations, political stuff, legislation, all that kind of stuff. And so we pulled everything out of that newsletter with his permission. I texted him yesterday, that's happening in the South, because who cares about Yankees? Am I right? Yankees suck. No, I'm kidding. I still care a little bit less, but I still care about my brothers and sisters north of the Mason-Dixon. So what's happening in the South? For new organizing, 125 workers in the youth care centers of Fort Bliss, Texas, are organizing with the Machinists Local 2515. 15 food service workers at Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri, are joining Laborers Local 955. There were 3 losses in the South this week. 46, which is sad. 46 manufacturing workers at the John Deere Regional Distribution Center in Dallas, Texas, voted against the UAW just barely. I hate stuff. I almost wish it was more lopsided, because this really hurts. In a 22-23 vote. 22-23. If one person had changed their vote, they would have had a union and a better life. The UFCW Local 1995... they got walloped in an election among 29 meatpacking workers at Keystone Foods in Gadsden, Alabama, which is sad. And you know, this speaks to the importance of the labor movement to talk to each other, because this is yet another election that happened in Alabama that I did not know about until I saw Jonah's newsletter. I had no idea about this. I hadn't seen this from any other unions in the area. I mean, I think between the two of us, we're pretty plugged into the labor movement in Alabama. I'm Secretary Treasurer of the darn Labor Council in North Alabama. I already know about this. I already have been able to bend down. We would have loved to have supported the effort. Anyway, they lost 3-25. Yikes. 13 workers at the SSB Manufacturing in Charlotte, North Carolina, voted against joining the Teamsters Local 71, 4-6. There's another close election. And the last loss, so we can get off of the heartbreaking stuff, is 5 HVAC workers for contractor QTAB in Kansas. Kansas is in the South. Is Kansas in the South?
No.
Unanimous?
No.
Nah? Okay, screw them.
We wish they would have voted yes.
Okay.
But we do focus more on the South here.
Yeah. Outside of the NLRB, and so to help you understand what that means is the NLRB is the National Labor Relations Board is the agency of the federal government that governs labor relations in the private sector federally. Right. And so what does that mean? Functionally, that means that people that work for municipalities and for state governments are not under the National Labor Relations Act, which created the National Labor Relations Board. And so teachers, municipal employees, things like that, firefighters, they do not organize or have elections within the National Labor Relations Board system. Each individual state and each individual city sets up regimes for bargaining and contract negotiations and such like individually. So outside of the NLRB, we had an election win through the Florida Public Employment Relations Commission's 1,300 adjuncts at Valencia College voted to join SEIU's Florida Public Services Union after years of organizing in a close 343 to 308 tally.
That's good news, and I'm sure our NYU sisters who were on the show last week, who have been doing a lot of organizing for grad student workers, I'm sure they're happy to hear that. Adjuncts and grad students are doing so much more of the work in colleges than they used to, so it's very, very critical that they organize and unionize.
Yep. Some pulled petitions in Tennessee. The machinists had a union election that they had tried to set up with 87 skilled trades workers at the Nissan plant in Smyrna. And the NLRB ruled that they had to expand their unit from 87 skilled trade workers to all 4,300 workers at the plant, which, that's crazy.
That's dumb.
That's dumb.
But it kind of reminds me of what happened to the
Amazon,
in the Bessemer Amazon campaign when they did that.
And that's one of the ways flooding the unit is one of the ways that bosses and management and the government through the NLRB cooperates with management to make it more difficult to organize. Because if you've got a specific set of a specific department in a business that wants to unionize their department, they should be able to without having to organize the whole shop. And sometimes it even works in reverse. There are some times where they divide up the unit. It's whatever, and that's why I say it's not just because, oh, this didn't work out for the union this time, so I don't like it. It's because the rules are not consistent. It's not always that workers have to form a wall-to-wall union or always that they can only form piecemeal department unions. It's whatever the boss wants, basically. The boss gets to decide, which is absurd because unions through the National Labor Relations Act were set up to be worker organizations, democratic, self-organized worker organizations, not organizations, gerrymandered by the boss. And so we can, there are some union drives where the workers want to form a union among 2 or 3 or 4 departments or wall to wall across the whole shop, and management says, no, that doesn't make sense. It should only be one department has the union and another one has another election and another one has another election instead of all having one union. And so it's just whatever the boss wants, which is really a really sorry state of affairs, which is why we need to pass the PRO Act, because under the PRO Act, that would not be the case. It would be, unions would again be worker self-organized worker democratic entities that choose their formations instead of bosses being able to gerrymander. But that's
and by the way, if we had that PRO Act, MSNBC's upper management may have been a little bit less eager to spread nonsense to their employees.
Yes, that's exactly right. The 2,900 Volvo workers in Dublin, Virginia remain on strike with the UAW Local 2069 in their on-again, off-again fight with very little movement happening between the company and the union. But a new bargaining date was announced for next week, so maybe we will have an update for you on that. And those workers in Virginia, in the newsletter, it said it's been on-again, off-again because they've been, okay, we're going to go on strike for a few weeks, and then we're going to come back to work for a few weeks, and then we're going to go on strike because the management isn't coming to the table in good faith, and they're not giving them what, they deserve. And so that's a lot of workers, that's almost 3,000 workers that have been on and off the job.
Yeah, and my understanding is much like in Brookwood at Warrior Met, there was an initial agreement that was put out there that was, very company friendly and was resoundingly rejected by the workers. So, we're sending our love and solidarity to Virginia. Hope you guys can hold the line until you get what you deserve.
Janitors with Local 32BJ SEIU in Miami, Florida, went on strike against building maintenance company CBM. Transit workers in Beaumont, Texas, with ATU Local 1031 authorized a strike over the allocation of CARES Act funding as well as safety concerns with outdated buses and equipment. In Asheville, North Carolina, National Nurses United members picketed over safe staffing concerns on the heels of their massive union win last September. The 100 members of the Steelworkers Local 759L who were locked out at Mississippi Polymers in Corinth, Mississippi, reached a new agreement ending the lockout/strike on Monday. 600 workers at the at Vanderbilt University with Laborers Local 386 are organizing for raises as their one-year pandemic-induced contract extension expires in November. The National Domestic Workers Alliance announced a pilot agreement for a sort of collective bargaining agreement with Handy, a house cleaning gig app in 3 states, Kentucky, Florida, and Indiana. We don't care about the last one. As experimentation with app-based worker-labor agreements ramps up, that's something to watch. And, we've been seeing a lot of these, especially like the one of the most recent high-profile ones was the one in New York City, or in New York, which was absolutely a complete capitulation to Uber and Lyft. And, the idea that you could have called what that law would have set up worker organizations is laughable.
Yeah, I think we got to be very, very careful as we, go into this new terrain of all this gig-based work, which, by the way, if you're an Alabama worker who does gig work, that your unemployment benefits, of course, were cut off today by Governor Ivey. But I digress. But these gig-based jobs, they're not really careers, but Uber and Lyft and all these other ones, we're going to have to be very mindful that if they're, first of all, they need to organize and they need to unionize, but we need to make sure it's an actual union, a workers union, because I think that's what happened in New York, and that's what we're seeing in other places is, these companies like Uber are smart enough to know that they should probably throw something out there, and so what you could end up with is, what we've always called in the movement the company union. That it may sound like a union on the outside, it may look like one on the outside, it may technically have dues and memberships, but it's not independent of the company, and in fact exists to support the company, and that's the case even in other countries as well.
Yeah. And the last update, and we're going to dive more into this on the other side of the break, or we may have a few more minutes before this break is over. But the last one in the South is the UMWA, the United Mine Workers of America strike is still ongoing in Alabama. It is nearing its 90-day mark. I was down there on Tuesday for More Perfect Union, and you can go and see that video on Twitter if you would like to get updates there. And I may be writing a dispatch for a news outlet, and I'll we'll tweet that out if I'm able to do that, because and so that's the end. Thank you so much to Jonah Furman for doing this newsletter and for allowing us to pull it and put it out there on audio and video. Hopefully it's helpful for you, and seriously folks, go subscribe, because I joke about like not caring about the South, but one of the reasons that we just pulled from the South is because we are Southern focused, right? We're the Valley Labor Report. We're located in Alabama, so we do have like a special interest in what's going on in the South. But if I read the entire newsletter, it took me 13 minutes just to go through and just to hit one line. Every single one of those situations, we could spend the entire show on if we wanted to. Every single one. We could have interviews with members. We could seriously.
It's amazing work.
There's so much happening and so much that we could go into. So just hitting those one lines, I think we're going to do that regularly, I hope, from now on, because I want to, even though we can't delve deep into every story happening in the South, I hope that we can kind of give people a scope of what's happening, because there really is so much worker activity, organized and democratic worker struggles for independence and fair wages and liberation happening just in the South. That's all that was the one-line things that's happening in the South. If I went through the whole newsletter, just going through one line of everything that's happening in the United States would literally take the whole show. I mean, it's such a good, and he does that every single week. It comes out on Thursday or Friday. It is Who Gets the Bird? Who Gets the Bird on Substack.com. Jonah Furman is the author. You can follow him on Twitter at Jonah Furman, F-U-R-M-A-N. I mean, it's great. It's so like, and so what I was saying was I joke about only caring about the South, and we have a special interest in the South, but I really do care about what's happening everywhere, all over the country and all over the world. And this is his newsletter is a great way to just get a glimpse of what is going on in the labor movement and for workers all across this country.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Appreciate the scale and the sheer number of unions and elections and actions that you don't hear in the mainstream media.
Yeah, it's really cool. So thank you so much for Jonah for writing it and for allowing us to use it. We have one more segment. We're going to be diving a bit into the UMWA strike on our last segment. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
All workers deserve fair wages, affordable health care, and a retirement plan that enables them to retire with dignity. All workers deserve to have a say about the terms and conditions of their employment, not just the bosses. With the machinist unions over 600,000 members having our back, Local Lodge 44 in Decatur, Alabama has been serving workers' interests for over 20 years. Our members have the best health insurance in the area with zero deductible plans. We set the bar for pay in the area with over $40 an hour rates, consistently averaging the highest non-college degree jobs in North Alabama with some of the best retirement plans in the industry. We can do the same for you. Together, we remain united, raising our voices to ensure justice on the job and service in the community. The Machinist Union is a true Southern union founded in Atlanta in 1888. We have been serving members' needs for 132 years. The longevity of our union proves our dedication and loyalty to the working class. The Machinist Union isn't just for machinists. We represent workers in government, healthcare, auto workers, aerospace workers, transportation workers, the defense industry, and woodworking. Our members even build the iconic Harley-Davidson motorcycles. If you're ready to get serious about better benefits and wages, if you want to have a voice in your workplace with over 600,000 members to back you up, call or email us today at 256-286-3704 or organize at iamaw44.org.
Here in Huntsville, federal employees are an invaluable part of the nation's defense, offering unmatched expertise in engineering and technology and as stewards of taxpayer dollars. What we ask for in return is to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. The American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE Local 1858, is a union of working people looking out for each other, making sure that we're treated right. To inquire about joining or to learn more, call 256-876-4880.
If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, you can search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments and release them throughout the week. We upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So to see if we are on your listening platform of choice, you can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. We've got a website where you can buy our hats and stickers, all union made. thevalleylaborreport.org. And finally, if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.